Welcome, welcome to another episode of Brand Called You, a video and a podcast show that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom from hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. We are in season 3 of our show and have over 750 recordings for you, which you can see at www.tbcy.in. Today, it's my privilege to welcome a dear friend and founder, CEO of Anthem Biotech, Mr. Ajay Bhardwaj. Ajay, welcome to the show.
Thank you, Shesh. It's a privilege and an honor to be asked to speak to you on this show, The Brand Called You, and I've been really looking forward to it. Thank you for asking me.
Pleasure is all ours, Ajay. Anthem Biosciences is a leading discovery research alliance partner to leading global companies in the space of pharmaceuticals and agrosciences. Ajay grew up in Delhi, did his schooling from Delhi Public School and chemical engineering from IIT Delhi, post which, on fellowship, he went to US to study at Louisiana State University, from where he did his MS in chemical engineering with fermentation as his specialization. His love for India brought him back in 1984. His first job was at Max India, then Iran Baxi Company. After a year of association with them and to pursue his interest in biotechnology, he relocated to Bangalore to join Biocon in its early days. Biocon sales were then less than $50,000. In 21 years later, in year 2006, Ajay left Biocon as president of the company with annual sales of over $225 million and with business in over 45 countries. In 15 years of its existence, Anthem Biosciences has built a reputation of being the top-tier partner for R&D services to leading global pharma companies, agri-science and material science domains, making Anthem the second largest player in this space in India. Anthem plant is US FDA approved and its products are very popular with large Indian and global organizations around the world. Anthem employs over 1,400 people, mostly scientists, and is one of the fastest growing biotech companies in the country. With over 200 customers worldwide, some of them are the largest pharmaceutical companies in the world. I've had the pleasure of knowing Ajay for a few decades, and he's a dear friend. Like me, all his friends adore him for his genuineness and his ready wit. He's an avid reader and still reads a few hours every day. Ajay, welcome to the show, and it's just a pleasure to have you talk to us because I've had the pleasure of knowing you and seeing your journey for very long. And I kind of just admired you from the time when you started with Biocon and then you went on to build Anthem and how you've gone about building it. So talk to us. Now, my first thing which I want to ask you is talk to us about your professional journey and your learnings from it.
Thank you, Shesh, and thank you for that glowing introduction, which is wholly undeserved. But I must say, yes, the parts that I absolutely agree with is that we've known each other for a while. And, my experience, at least from the time that I've known you, you know very well that, I have limited experience in corporate life. I worked first for a short time in Max India, then most of my work life as an employee was in Biocon. And then 15 years ago, we started with Anthem. So from my limited experience, broadly speaking, what I have learned is that what makes a successful entrepreneur or a successful person in business life, and why just business life, generally in life, is to do the right thing at the right time. So that was, you have to be absolutely honorable in your workplace. Your word should be your bond, and you should be seen and known for doing the right thing. So that has always been has worked tremendously for me. The second thing that I would like to say is that, if you are zigging when everybody else is zagging, then you are possibly on the right track. Think about it. In 1982, when I went to the US, that was the place to go to make your life as a professional, because India had very low opportunities for professionals. And if I recall, about 30% of our batch from IIT couldn't even get jobs uh, on campus recruitment. So it was that bad. And when everybody chose to stay back in the US in 1984, I chose to come back. It was absolutely counterintuitive, and I was told that I was doing it would be a disastrous move for my career. On hindsight, that's the best thing that happened. So again, when I left Biocon, whatever little money I had, I poured into starting Anthem. And everybody said, why are you doing this? It's, you should set aside money be safe. Don't do this thing. Again, it's counterintuitive, but I believed if we do the right thing and we had the right ideas, it could work for us. And again, it did. So at all times, doing things which are generally counterintuitive has helped. So I believe that zigging while everybody else zagged is a good approach to life. Don't go by what the herd mentality is. Then the third thing is to truly expand your horizons. Have a large amount of interest, but know a few things really well. So I do concentrate on that. I have a very large interest on a variety of subjects. I read about them, but then there are a few things which I do, then I really put a lot of effort into knowing them well. This is always very helpful. The fourth thing, and then everybody, it's a no-brainer, how to manage relationships. I don't have that many, I have a lot of professional relationships, but how to manage those in a way that, you have, that you become a trusted partner, a trusted friend, and a trusted colleague, a go-to person for people whom they can rely on, and then have a great ability to do conflict resolution. This is something which has served me very well. Naturally, in real life and in business life, you have a lot of conflict, how to resolve it without having it blow up into your face. And finally, being a problem solver. Because, we all know we know what the problem is many times, but knowing the problem is just the beginning. And you know how it is. Everybody will tell you this is the problem, but what are we doing about solving that problem? That is the approach I've taken. If there is a problem, you go face it, fully, and then try and solve that problem. My mantra for doing whatever I've done is basically very simple, and these are the things that I've done.
So well said, Ajay. I think I couldn't agree more. I think brilliantly put. Loved it. Ajay, I have to ask you this question because 35 years back, when you came into the biotech space, the world did not know much about it. And today, biotech is the most sought after industry. What is so attractive about this industry? What makes this industry so sought after?
Well, you're absolutely right. Again, Shesh, part of the zigging and zagging theory, when I started to look at biotech, it was just a new sexy word, which everybody had heard of, but pretty much most people, at least in the general public, had no idea what it meant. Neither did I. And of course, when you go deeper into it, when you start thinking about it, biotech has very deep tracks into society. It has really deep tracks into society. It is the stuff that life is made of. So, IT has done a lot for the world. It has improved processes. It has done all that. But it improves processes, it improves systems, connectivity, real-time monitoring, analytics, but biotech allows you to fundamentally shape and alter life. That is why it is so powerful, and suddenly the world realizes that it is a technology that will really affect us in the future. It touches all aspects of our life: agriculture, that's called green biotech; health tech, which is called red biotech because of the color of blood; industrial, biotech, it's called white biotech, and maritime, which is called blue biotech. So, to be honest, it has this scary potential of actually mankind playing God. You can alter the stuff life is made of. And so it raises questions which have never been raised in society before by technology, apart from the usual legal, IP, ethics. It raises even questions about laws, about morality, about is it ethical? These are questions which have been so far confined to the realm of, I would say, religion in most countries. But biotech actually brings that all into mainstream. So it's a very powerful way of addressing the world's problem. So that's why it's become center stage for most countries, because the next century, I would say, without an argument, will belong to biotech. See, with burgeoning world population and its aspirations, it requires that more food be produced, more industrial products be produced, better health for everybody at an affordable cost. For that, biotech has to be the answer. And I think that's why it's suddenly got everybody's attention.
Okay, thank you. I think it's brilliant. I did not know there were so many segments of biotech which is out there, blue, red, and so on and so forth. Now, I can relate to biotech being, because it's also very research incentive, very large capital intensive business as well. Now, what is the future from the India point of view? What is the future of biotech in India?
Right. Good question, Shesh, and very timely question, because India is still, we are lagging behind. But in all fairness, we are catching up quickly. As with everything else, in the past, again, there is no question that the science, the quality of our scientists, their knowledge, their research capabilities are second to none. But the infrastructure has not always been supportive. So we are actually playing catch up, but that's a good place to be in. You don't have to always do blue skies research to get ahead or to get even. Let the blue skies research happen elsewhere. How do we apply it for conditions and for our local population? And that's where the Indian science is now focusing. And I'm very, very optimistic about the future. Where we lack still is legislation and the general suspicion. Being an old traditional society, we have general suspicion of new technology. So as always, we are slow adopters. And the narrative sometimes gets colored by political overtones, by vested interest. And in a democracy, especially a noisy democracy like us, it's very easy to change the course of discussion and take it to a place where it actually harms the country. So that's the part which fortunately, I think governments have understood, they're trying to address. But other than that, I think we, among developing countries, we're already being recognized as a force to reckon with. It's no mystery about the COVID vaccination. India is the largest producer of vaccines in the world. And, it's been a surprise for many people in India, first of all, and then the world that the biggest capacities exist here. And so it will be in the future for even biosimilars or biotech drugs for health. But we have to address agriculture. We have to address industrial product. That is something that, companies are looking at. So I'm very optimistic about the future. But yes, we are a little behind, but it's not that we are so far behind the West now.
Interesting. No, I think you bring a focus onto a very interesting thing. While we are seeing the emergence of this new technology space, the biotechs and stuff like that, but India is a country of ancient medicine. Ayurveda is the oldest medicine known to the world, and there is a lot of work which is happening in that space, and there's a lot of revival which is happening. How do you see this? Do you see there could be a potential conflict, or is it going to be complementary, or there could be a room to coexist? between the new medicines of the new generation and the old medicine, which is Ayurveda?
Oh, yeah, totally, Shesh. Again, very relevant question. See, we have an ancient system of Ayurveda, which is holistic treatment. And increasingly, even science is converging to the view that the body has to be looked at holistically. Allopathy generally addresses the symptom, not the cause. Ayurveda says, let's address the cause. So, yes, but the challenge is that the allopathy is more based on absolute scientific evidence. We have not been able to do that kind of research in our universities and our institutions to say that these are the ingredients which are important in any Ayurvedic drug, and this is their mechanism of action. So largely, the doctor, the medical community does not accept anecdotal evidence. They want hard evidence. So science always works like that. So for us, for Ayurveda, it will always coexist. But for us, for Ayurveda to take again the place of eminence which belongs to it, which rightfully belongs to it in the Indian society, it has to be driven. We have to take China as the model. Chinese medicine has been thoroughly researched in China. They have identified active ingredients. There is a lot of scientific evidence and publications which tell you why, how, and mechanism of action of Chinese old traditional medicine. So it is largely a question. Even the medical community does not resist it because it is now based on science. So we need to, and there's work being done in this area, but there's still lots to be done. And that is one part of it. Second is more stringent quality controls, because, companies which make herbal medicines are not as rigorously monitored as those that make allopathy drugs. So there is not, the public does not have that much confidence on the quality of what they are getting. So that is something which, again, I'm sure we know that it's being addressed. So these are the challenges that we face in this, but there is no question about it that, everybody now recognizes that there is room for both systems of medicine.
Thank you, Ajay. Thank you for putting that in perspective. Ajay, it's 15, 16 years since the time you turned entrepreneur, started Anthem. Now, talk to us, tell us, how has this journey has been? Where is Anthem today? What is Anthem's accomplishments, and what has Anthem achieved in the last 15 years, and what makes you very proud of it?
Well, first of all, when we started, like everywhere, every entrepreneur, and if they're being honest, they'll tell you, you have a certain idea of what you want to do. It rarely pans out that way. You also along the way seize opportunities. But I must say, having worked for over 22 years, 23 years before I started, I had a fairly good idea of what we wanted to do, and most of it panned out as it should have. But yes, we did seize opportunities along the way, and to be honest, again, you learn always more from your failures than success. Success rarely teaches us anything, right? And both in my personal and professional life, I have learned only, and I emphasize the word only, when I have slipped. So first of all, the thing you learn is that you are not a failure. What you were attempting failed. So that is a learning that everybody should always remember and keep with them, because what we do can fail. That doesn't make us a failure. Things will go wrong, that is life. And have faith in your ability, and have faith in the Almighty, that if you do the right thing, things will sort themselves out. And many times in my personal experience, what appears to be a failure or one door shutting is actually an opportunity for other doors opening up. So that is, I've always taken it that, and that's probably got to do with my optimistic nature. And so that has served us very well. Second is, in personal life, when I went to the US, and this is an anecdote where I'll take a minute, it was Reagan administration, they cut funding to universities. I was at a state university, so they cut off my funding after the first semester. Now, imagine you're without funding, if you have to pay tuition fee now, and there was no way I was going to ask my parents to pay tuition fee. We come from middle class backgrounds, so it was unthinkable even to do that, and I couldn't even tell them because they would have said, "Come back." So somehow I was very lucky. I borrowed from other students, and they loaned me money. I mean, to my utter surprise, they were somebody gave me $200, somebody gave me $300, and like that I put together the few $1,000s I needed to pay my tuition, and I finished. I stuck to the job. I did my coursework and got my scholarship back. So that was a great learning. And I returned everybody's money in the next semester. And I asked them this, I said, why did you loan me money? I mean, some of these people I hardly knew. They just said, we felt you will definitely give it back. So, that is something I learned a lot about, that people do make assessments on your character depending on how you've interacted with them. So that was a great learning. Again, I did a lot of competitive sports in college and school, and then even when I was working. So that has been very helpful, because what you learn is that tomorrow is another day. You lose a game doesn't mean that you've lost the tournament, right? So you get up and go back to work the next day, because that is how sport is, and team sport in particular also teaches you that different team players have different skills. Use them. You have only limited skills, so always put around yourself people who have skills which you don't have. So that has been a great learning in my life. So I've always used those.
No, I think very brilliantly put, Ajay. While one knows, when the adversity comes, you have to stand up, and you do, and you did it. The story which you talked about it. Talk to us about, in specific, some of the failures and what were your learnings from that. Something which every successful man has list of failures behind him, and what were some of them which you felt, yeah, I got that wrong, but it taught you a lesson.
Well, there's, both in personal and professional.
And it need not necessarily be professional. It could be personal as well.
Right. So both in personal and professional life, like everybody else, I've done many things which shouldn't have been done. But on hindsight, sometimes you find out only in hindsight. Some of it is got to do with, your interaction with your own children and your family. You wish you had done it differently, but you only get one shot at doing it. So I wouldn't do it that way. Much of it, if I had a chance again, but it is what it is. You can't rewrite that, but you can change what you do now. And that's something which I've learned a lot, and that is something which will always go with me as a very positive learning in life. Secondly, like I told you the story about this losing my scholarship in USA. One of my professors there was a racist, and and I think at that time I was miserable, and I felt, and he gave all the Indian students C grades, which when you get that in graduate school, it's quite bad. But he gave it to all the students in his class, and his course was a mandatory course, so you had to do it. And he told us to our face that you come here, you take our jobs, you do. So listen, that was the best thing that happened to me. I stood up to him, and when I left US, I went back to him, and I had a very nice conversation with him. Those days, my language was much more colorful. So I gave it back to him in his words. And I said, I'm leaving the US, so we don't come here to take your jobs. And later on, actually, he was let go. The point I'm trying to make is, again, people come in our lives to teach us things. That's what we should take from them and not let them get you down. Because, listen, what you learn then is, it is not always to any adversity, to any situation, learn how to respond. Don't react. Reaction is always spur of the moment. Response is well thought out. And your response is what determines what happens to you going forward and whether you will succeed or fail in your future efforts. So that's something I learned. Even when I left Biocon, as usual, when you leave a company after being there for so long, it's not always amicable and pleasant as it should be. But I was very clear. We didn't have to show anybody anything. We were not out there to seek any kind of, not the revenge is a very strong word, but seek any kind of, retribution in some way. You do what has to be done and do it the right way. And today I have to say I have excellent relationship with Biocon because they realized that just because we were for Anthem doesn't mean we were against Biocon. We never did anything that hurt our former employer. We didn't go to the same customers. We never made a single product that they make. Even today, we don't do it. We created our own niche and we have developed our, if you believe in your talent, then that is what you have to bank on and go ahead and prove that you can stand on your own feet. So, and the other thing is, whenever things go wrong, don't hide your head in the sand. Stand up and face the music. That's always been something which I have, even in school, college, when you did some things which you weren't supposed to do, you get caught, don't run away, go and face it. And that builds character. And that is, it's always served me well. So the other thing, which is something I say now, and this is again based on experience, trust in God and believe in the law of karma. If you do good, it will come around. And I very strongly believe in that. And it has been absolutely my experience. And I can, tell endless stories about it when things move in a way where you think, it is karma, it can't be anything else.
Wow. Ajay, I tell you, I can go on listening to you for a few hours like this, so I think when you are in the flow, it has a different, and when you share your experiences, I think I can relate to everything what you just said. It's amazing.
Well,
I have
you.
a question. I have a question for you, Ajay. Biotech is the most sought after industry. And I've had the pleasure of knowing your organization. I've had the pleasure of knowing a couple of other biotech companies. And they all seem to hire people from very high profile institutes. Now, this question is related to that. What do people who are who go to a lesser known universities, who have not had the opportunity to leave their small town and they educate themselves there, what is there any room and opportunity for them to be part of this growing industry? How do they become part of it? And what would be your message to these young children who are in the schools and colleges, or they should say, listen, it's only for the people, it's a little elitist in certain words.
Well, first of all, that's a misconception. The companies which hire people are actually hiring from second, third, and fourth level colleges. Of course, they're not industry ready, but wherever there is the right attitude and the hunger to learn, those people can be trained and are trained by industry. So my message to people, to college students is, listen. And I wish I'd thought like this, but I suppose that's the folly of youth. You don't go to college to get a degree. You go to college to learn. And learning is independent of the college you're in. it is a very personal effort along with what is taught in your coursework. So if you go with the attitude that I want to learn, there is enough material out there nowadays with all the online learning. You can actually come, it doesn't matter that whether you go to the top colleges or not. Think about it. Let's say the first 20,000 people make it to IITs. You mean to say the next 20,000 aren't good enough? And the other 20, 30,000 below them who missed the cut by just a small margin for a variety of reasons, they're not good enough. People are, it is just, it very often is your luck at that time, the place you're if you were unwell, there are a variety of factors which might make people miss the cut. So our experience is that to do extraordinary things, you don't always need extraordinary people. Ordinary people can do extraordinary things, and that's how we build our organization. It's a collection of ordinary people. I'm no different. We're just ordinary people, but we come together with the right attitude. You can do extraordinary things. So my thing would be, just if you want to do something, India is the place to be. And this I want to send out very, very strongly to young people. You see, when we were growing up, it was, get out of India if you want to be professionally successful. Then it became, okay, you can't, whether it's, you can still make, because job opportunities grew. In the next 20 to 30 years, India is going to be regardless of what our politics is, it will be in an explosive growth phase. And that happens only once in the history or the history of any country. It happened in the 70s in Japan. It happened in post-war United States, post-World War II. It happened in the 80s and 90s, in 80s and 90s in Korea. It started happening in 90s in China. It is going to happen now in India. So young people have this white space on which they can paint their story. There is a white canvas. There'll be tremendous growth in the next 25, 30 years. So this is a place to be. And we can already see that happening in terms of the number of startups. Yes, not everybody will succeed, but they will learn a lot. And that is tremendous success. So I'm extremely bullish on the future of our country. Of course, it has challenges. Which country doesn't? But if we are going to become a 5 trillion economy, which we will, is going to be an addition of nearly $2.2 trillion of GDP in the next maybe 5 or 6 years. Wow. In which other country is that happening? So just pure business sense says, do stuff here.
Fantastic. Thank you, Ajay. I think, we are running out of time, but there are so many more questions, which one wants to ask you. And then I think we will come back and do a repeat some other time. But I want to thank you for taking time out and talking to us. It was wonderful talking to you. Thank you once again, and have a wonderful day and a great week ahead. Thank you, Ajay.
Thanks.
Namaskar.
Namaskar, Ashish, and talk to you soon. Bye-bye.
Thank you for listening to the Brand Called You videocast and podcast, a platform that brings you knowledge, experience, and wisdom of hundreds of successful individuals from around the world. Do visit our website www.tbcy.in to watch and listen to the stories of many more individuals. You can also follow us on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Just search for the Brand Called You.